mga kaibigan! Welcome again to In My Toolbox, your weekly talk show on your personal finance, only here at PHLV Radio. Mga kaibigan, the goal of this show is to, of course, give you financial information that you may be able to use on your day-to-day financial decisions. We will, of course, unbox topics that will hopefully aid you and guide you and maybe even add to your financial tools. And of course, guys, we will tackle important information here, mostly not taught in school, but of course, is much needed to empower you financially. Ayan naman mga kaibigan. Ano? So, again, as usual, in any idea that will transpire in the show, always consult with your financial advisors, insurance professionals, or tax consultants. Again, for those first-time listeners, my name again is Enrico Pobre. I'm your host. I'm sales, marketing, and trainer. I'm an economist, an entrepreneur, and a financial professional. Mga kaibigan, if you have questions, ask them away on the chat box below, or if you will be listening to the show on a later time, please feel free to connect with me through the Facebook page In My Toolbox, or connect with me via Instagram or LinkedIn, or simply Google my name, Enrico Pobre. I bet you won't miss me, all right? Or you can email me at enrico.inmytoolbox@gmail.com. Ayan naman mga kaibigan. Thank you so much for, again, listening to another episode of In My Toolbox. Siyempre, we will talk about finance. So for today, my topic today is going to be strong financial health. Yan naman, ano? Kasi the reason why we're using financial health, it's always used to describe the state of one's personal monetary affairs. So, if I ask you a question, how healthy is your financial life? Or how healthy is your wallet? Oh, that sounds familiar, right? Okay, so there are many dimensions to financial health, including the amount of savings you have, how much you're putting away for your retirement, how much investment assets you have, how much of your income you're spending on fixed or non-discretionary expenses, etc., etc. For today, guys, I will not do much of the talking. Of course, I have my guest for us who's going to talk to us about, how to position yourself to have a strong financial health. Of course, my very good friend, I've been friends with him for so long, maybe a decade now, although we look like we're 20, right? Okay. So this is a very good this is a very good friend of mine. From Virginia Beach. So he is our executive vice president for I4 Global Incorporated, and he's been in the financial industry for over a decade as well. And I learned a lot from this man, and I talk to him every day, and just so excited to have him here in the show. Let's all welcome from Virginia Beach, Mr. Sean Tall. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hey, well, thank you. I'm so excited. I appreciate that, Rico, for having me on. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation today.
Awesome. Mr. Sean, I know we've been talking about finance every day, and that's actually the air that we breathe every day, finance, right? So the state and the stability of individuals' personal finances and personal financial affairs are what we call the financial health. So Sean, I know we've been talking about this financial health and how to position ourselves to have that strong financial health. So talk to us about, all of these steps or all of these things that we would want to consider, or we may want to consider to have that, or to create that strong financial health.
It's very important to have that. There's 6 steps, I think, that at least, I believe that people need to look at, or 6 areas they need to look at financially to make sure they're successful, and when they having those 6 things working well for them, they probably will feel as a success financially. And those 6 things that I look at is cash flow. First thing is your cash flow. We all have a flow of cash coming in, or we hope so, but where's it flowing to, right? Is it flowing in the positive? It's flowing in negative, and that will definitely interrupt or impact everything else. But you have to have positive cash flow, and be able to do the rest of the things you want. The second part, I would say, is definitely emergency funds. Building a emergency fund, because we don't talk about this, I'm sure, a little bit later.
Yeah.
But emergency funds are so important. And then debt management, because so many people realize that they're in debt, or and debt is a horrible feeling, especially I say feeling, because there's debt that is not as bad, but then there's debt that's kind of like demoralizing, right? Then there's also proper protection, and I kind of look at that proper protection as a thing that most people overlook, but being properly protected with life insurance or long term care or those type of things, that's going to protect your money in case of unexpected results or unexpected things happening to you. And then, of course, building your wealth for retirement, building wealth for just having money, right, in the future, right? Building
Exactly.
wealth. And then lastly, estate planning,
Perfect.
where you're planning for after you passed away, and leaving something for your children and maybe your children's children, and leaving that legacy.
Awesome, perfect. So Sean, financial experts, if I may just use that you're a financial expert. People on your level have what you call guidelines for each of these indicators that you've just mentioned. To build a very strong financial health. But of course, each person's situation is different. And this is the reason why we would want to talk about all of the six things that you said, just to be able to understand what it means. So you talked about cash flow. I know cash flow. This actually refers to the amount of money, or maybe the net amount of money after expenses and all the stuff, right? Of cash, or cash equivalent, if I may say that. And that's the ability to create value, to run some cash flow in and out the family. It means that it's the movement of money, not only personal. Even in a company, there's such thing as cash flow. So basically,
Yes.
is this what you actually meant by cash flow, Sir Sean?
Yes, exactly. Your money that's coming in, you should have a flow of money that's over and above your bills, right? That you have discretion,
Discretionary. Yeah.
discretionary. Excuse me, can't talk to that. Discretionary income, so that you're able to do the other things. When people don't have cash flow, or have negative cash flow, or that's the easiest way to start to get into debt, right? If you just think of it, if you don't have a positive cash flow or excess, then your anything else you want to do, fun, if it's just fun, even or if it's an emergency, it's going to cause debt, right? And not all debt comes from emergencies. Some debt come from vacations, right? If someone want to take a vacation, or they want to go out, or they're doing this and they put it on their card because they don't have enough cash flow to just take care of those things, then guess what? Those things happen. And people haven't realized that cash flow isn't just nice to have extra. It's almost it is a necessity. It's something that we, as a family, as that family unit, as an individual,
Yeah.
you need to know you have to have that positive cash
Where
flow.
the money's coming from. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing. Before we can even build something, we have to have something, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's cash flow. Your income coming in, less the expenses, etc. That's money movement in your finance. Very good. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Sean. I know that's very important. Before we can do anything else, guys, you have to make sure that you have cash flow. Individual or family, you have to define, hey, do I have money? So that's what it is,
Yes.
right? So you mentioned about debt management too, so Sean. You're talking about debt management as one of those things to create strong financial health. I know most Americans carry at least, let's just talk about one credit card, and an average balance maybe is about $6,000. That's according to the 2022 survey. Although credit cards make purchases, but of course, it's not only credit cards that we have to manage. There are other expenses or debts that we have. So tell me about debt management, sir.
Yeah, just some more statistics, right? Statistics. It's just something for people to open their eyes to, really. And so, if someone's hearing this, just to let you know, you're probably not alone, right? You're probably
That's right.
right there with a lot of other people. This says, I had did some research. It said the total household debt rose this year, rose in 2022, I say in the fourth quarter of 2022. The total household debt, so this including their mortgages and so on, is now is now 394 billion in this country.
Wow.
So $394 billion, right, of debt. Now, if you're just looking at the percentage of Americans in debt, 8 out of 10, 80% of Americans have consumer debt. So that's your credit cards and stuff like that. So then when you look at that, and it said the average American debt is $38,000. That's not including their mortgage.
Wow.
38,000. So Rico, that's some people full year salary. $38,000. That's like they have a that's they carrying that debt around with them. So that now, if you look at that again, it says there's more than 2 out of 5 Americans say they do not feel stable, and they don't have, and they have less than 1/3, and then nearly a third of them have less than $500 put away in emergency savings that could tackle that debt. So if you're walking around with $3,800 of debt, but only $500 of savings, what you might consider that a concern, right?
That's right. I always tell people, hey, if you're only earning $1,500 a month and your expenses is $2,000 a month, I think that's a problem. So of course, when you talk about debt management, I know you would agree with me on this one, Sean. You will be talking about financial planning. You're talking about budgeting, and you have to have a certain goal on how to eliminate those debt. But again, we go back to cash flow a while ago. You're not going to go anywhere without any cash flow. But at least when you have that, you can now talk about how to handle your debt management. But sometimes people say, hey, I just don't know if debt management really work. Does debt management really work,
Well, that's because I don't think many people don't know how to approach debt management. So if we want to get into it a little bit, debt management, what most people do is they have their, bunch of credit cards, and they have maybe a couple of loans or whatever that's out there. Let's just say you have 5 of those, including maybe a car loan, maybe a personal loan, or someone doing some, maybe they have some furniture, whatever out there, that people do. And they have, we all do it, and they have those loans. So what a lot of people try to do is they don't know how to properly eliminate their debt. So what they're doing is they take their cash flow that's coming in, and they say, hey, well, what's the minimum I could do to each card to just keep things floating, right? And then they say, okay, and let's just say on average they have 5 cards. It's an easy math thing. Say they have 5 loans, and let's just say the average they need to put $25 on each of the 5. So now they're just putting $25, and then say, hey, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put extra $5 on each, right, to try to pay it down. And now basically that's barely anything hitting the principal, or and nothing really gets reduced.
Exactly.
Right? So one of the things that we want to teach people is say, hey, you need to attack your debt in a better manner, which means you need to be able to approach your debt with by really attacking a debt. There's a couple of ways to do this, either called snowball method. There's a highest percentage rate method, whichever one. It doesn't matter to me, but the point is, in this discussion, just really, hey, tackle one debt, get rid of it, take all that to the next one, get rid of that, take all that excess to the next, and you will get through all of them quicker than trying to put a little bit on all of them. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's one of the ways to get out of debt.
Yeah.
But also, I know we're going to get to emergency funds, and we didn't get there yet. But I don't believe you will ever get out of debt completely, because I tell people this, Rico, and I have gotten out of debt at least 4 times. Well, almost 5 times. I actually completely out of debt 5 times in my life. You know what that means?
What does it mean?
I got into debt 6 times.
Oh, wow.
Right. So what does that mean is that most people at some point in time, you're going to carry some debt. However, debt is not that big of a deal if you have savings,
Yeah.
right? If you have more savings than debt, that's not a problem. But if we seeing that last part where you have $38,000 of debt, but only $500 of savings, now that's a huge concern.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have it flip flopped and you have, let's say $10,000 of debt, but you have $3,800 of savings,
That's going to
the debt
change the
doesn't
ballgame.
matter.
Yeah. That's going to change
So
the ballgame.
it is not necessarily about positive cash flow, but the positive cash flow. Where is your focus? Is it to savings or is it
Spending
just
it again.
spending again? Yes, right. Because if it's all about the spending and no saving, then you're having a problem. And I know we're going to talk about emergency funds, but I have a scenario, Enrico. That
Okay.
Enrico, do you swim?
Yeah, I swim. Yeah.
Okay. Do you swim with one hand or two?
Two. Definitely.
Okay, okay. And I imagine so, right? And why do you swim with two hands?
Much better to navigate and control all this stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you were swimming with one hand, you probably wouldn't get too. It'd be much harder to get somewhere, right?
Otherwise, I'll be drowned. So
Yes,
I'll drown.
exactly, exactly. And that's how most people approach their finances. They only try to get out of debt. Actually, there's some financial professionals out there that say you should only focus on debt. To me, again, I have gotten out of debt and got back into debt, right? And most people have gotten out of debt and got into debt. But if you don't save, at the same time as you're trying to get out of debt, you will never be in a positive movement. So you still need to swim with two hands. Mm-hmm. One, getting out, putting money to debt, but saving money. Putting money into debt, saving money. But saving money is, if you're going to do one, in my personal opinion, save money, because saving money going to help you get out of debt. But if you just try to get out of debt, that does not mean that you have any
save
money.
Exactly. And it's I understand definitely some people would definitely agree with me on this one. It's so tempting if you have extra money, right? But then again, you just don't realize when you look at it at a bigger scale, that money has to go somewhere, really. Otherwise, you're going to be spending it again. And you're speaking about debt management, the one that you mentioned, the debt snowball or the debt avalanche methods.
Yes.
I call it the DIY version of debt management. So a lot of people need to understand those. What those things means, to get out of debt. What is this avalanche, snowballs, And the other one too, if you don't really understand those guys, I would suggest that you hire somebody, a credit counselor, or if you know a friend, just to save more, these people will definitely know, because this is what they're good at. If what do you think about that, Sir Sean?
Absolutely. It's one, I definitely agree. As a person who in finance, mm-hmm. Right? We know it's easier, or it's better to have a professional helping you. Because if you don't, you're just shooting in the wind. And it's always good to have a professional. Actually, I believe even for myself, I don't always do my own finances. I might know how to, but at times I get other financial professionals to look at my finances. Why? Because you're emotional about your own money.
Exactly.
So when you're emotional about your money, emotion don't always make the best decisions, mm-hmm. right? And that's why doctors aren't supposed to operate on their loved ones or themselves. That's why lawyers, people say you shouldn't represent yourself in court. Well, I don't think you should just try to do all your finances yourself. You should have a professional to help you. Those, and just simply put, with those different debt management tools you was talking about, the snowball method, the avalanche method, basically all we're saying in either one. Snowball means from how I talk about it, is that you're taking the smallest debt, paying that off, going to the next one, and keep on going until you get to the largest one. And that way, the excess money that you now have, you're now putting it to the any debt and getting rid of it. The avalanche method is attacking it by the highest interest rate, right? And you're attacking the highest interest rate first, because in the long run that might cost you more money. Get rid of that and you reduce it by the interest rates, right? And again, to me, it all depends on the person and how their tools look and what their balances look like. But either one is better than doing nothing, right?
Oh yeah.
And this is the thing, right? I think you feel the same way. Some people are like actually almost getting fights like, no, one is right or one is wrong. I don't believe that. I think it's like, hey, whichever works for you, right? I mean,
exactly.
You know,
as long as you're doing something.
Do something, work on it. And of course, debt management is different than credit repair, because then credit repair is going in and building your credit up and changing that and building that up and getting rid of things. And don't ask me about credit. It's every time I talk to people about credit, it's like, to me, it's a game. It's a game that keeps on changing. One thing I actually was just talking to a credit professional, right? And they say, because Enrico, why most people want to get out of debt is so they could get better credit. And the reason why they want to get better credit
so
is
they
to
can
what?
Borrow again.
More debt. Yeah, exactly. That's why I say your debt will never really leave. You're going to get into more debt. That's why you're improving your credit rating. Right?
Mindset.
So the thing is about credit. There's I think the person told me, and I might quote this incorrectly, but there's like almost 15 different type of credit ratings.
Okay.
Now we know the three are like the 4 credit bureaus or whatever, but there's a whole bunch of different industries that look at your credit and look at different things. So really, they're rating your credit specifically on the scale for them. So the home, if you're trying to buy a home, they're looking at your credit differently than a person trying to buy a car, than the person trying to buy just get a different credit card, than a person that whatever you want to say. All those things does not look at your credit the same. And I found that out recently. They all of them look and judge your credit differently. They'll literally look at your credit, and let's say you have a 700 or a 780 or 620. It doesn't matter. Each one of them will look at your credit differently. Yeah. And a person could have a higher credit rating overall, but because of what's on the credit, could be looked at worse than a person's lower credit rating, but what's on their credit. So it's credit. That you definitely, to me, you need a quality person. I had one person the other day about credit, just because I'm looking to buy a house, and they said to me, and self-employed people is there. I'm sure you might know this too. Like, Enrico, self-employment is a whole different world out there with credit people too, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that they were saying, hey, like I don't have any debt. Like one of the things they would say to me, like, man, you're great. We don't have any debt. However, you need to have some debt.
That's right. So you can borrow.
They're like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, you need to get some credit cards and get something because I don't have any debt. Like, oh, now you have to get some debt. You're like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, you get these credit cards and then put this money on it, pay it off. Now you're showing positive credit. I'm like, are you serious right now? Yeah. So it's all, to me, the credit game is a different game than what we're talking about debt management. Those
exactly. Yeah, 2 different things, definitely. Emergency fund, Sir Sean. I know emergency fund. We call it contingency funds or savings buffer. It's actually a personal budget set aside as a financial safety net for future, emergencies, or unexpected expenses. And I know this is critical in financial planning. Tell me about it, sir.
Yeah, we say, the perfect type of emergency fund, you should have 6 months of your, at least cost of your bills and expenses saved away, right? That if something happens and you lose your primary source of income, you're good for another 6 months. That will be the gold star, right? You have the gold star emergency funds. If you have it more than that, that's awesome. You want to have it someplace that's liquid, which means you could go get it when you need it. Not something tied up that you can't access
immediately. Yeah, that's right.
So now one of the things I want to say for people, what's not an emergency fund? So that just just talk about that. Your 401k is not an emergency fund.
That's right.
Your IRA is not an emergency fund. Your 403b is not an emergency fund. Any type of retirement plan, even your Roth, is not an emergency fund. Do not treat them like emergency funds. That's your retirement. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you take from them, you're taking from your future self for your retirement. It's gone, right? But Americans, well, I mean, as a country, we have started to treat our retirement planning as our emergency fund. So then what happens is that you take away from your retirement planning, and that means that you can't retire when you need it because you don't have an emergency fund. So you need to have an emergency fund. Going back to cash flow, I know we kind of interweaving because your cash flow, your emergency fund, and debt management, I believe, is definitely intertwined. But your cash flow right now, I think they said last year was the first year majority of Americans was having a negative discretionary cash flow. Say 2022. This is the first year since 2008, and you can find it definitely because of the increase of inflation and some of the other things that hit us from the war and some of the other things that was out of people's control. It just brought that up. Now, again, imagine that if your money is the same, right? But you don't, and now, but bills went increasing, not because you spent more, but just because it costs more, and you don't have emergency funds, especially if something happens. Now, that's where things get pulled away, and that's where debt starts to come in more, because the first thing we do is like, okay, well, I need to pay it. So what you gonna do? You're gonna go to credit, some type of credit, to try to get through that period of time. And if you're doing that, now you're increasing your debt. So emergency funds is so important because it will help you stay afloat. It will help you not get in debt, and it will help you keep a positive mode going. So one of the things, Enrico, that I personally tell people when what my wife and I were just talking about this again, it's like when you get your money coming in, your cash flow, one of the first things that we do, because we are churchgoers and we do this, we do a 10% to giving, and then we do 10% paying to ourselves, and that 10% paying to ourselves, that's more to emergency funds, and then you should then because I'm self-employed, I'm putting another 10% or so to retirement or long-term savings, right? So that money is breaking up. I mean, I'm just doing it in percentages, and if I'm doing that correctly, it doesn't matter what amount of money coming in, a percentage of that is going to those areas all the time, and therefore you're staying ahead of the game.
Wow. That's very powerful, Sir Sean. Unfortunately, we have a short time today. We only tackled 3 out of the 6 things, but definitely I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing the other 3 maybe next week. So I think the one that we miss is a proper protection and the retirement planning and the estate planning. Guys, these are very, very important aspects of to have a very strong financial health. So Sean, just before we go, tell us about your business and how we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Oh, sure. Well, me and Enrico, we work together all the time, and I actually have the vice president of I4 Global with Enrico. and we one of the great things I love about our company, we actually able to help people with all those things because our products that we have, it kind of impacts every single area or can help you in all those areas. Our specialties are, actually with the products that we have can help you to build your emergency funds that you can get out of debt, that can build a retirement, keep you properly protected, and then start helping you for estate planning. Really, I love that because we're touching all the 6 things that's so important for people to be successful financially. As you know, both of us have been doing this for years. But if anyone, is it okay for me to give my number? If someone to reach me, I'm in the Virginia area, but I do it all across the country. If you want to reach me at 757-237-7326, is at 757-237-7326. Or you can look me up on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm Sean Toll. So I'm there all over the place. So you could just reach out to me.
Awesome. Perfect. So much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sean. And definitely, I know you're out there. Your heart is to help people. And thank you so much for being in the show today. Well, mga kaibigan, you have to measure your financial health. You have to ask the question, how prepared are you for unexpected events? That's the reason why we say it's unexpected. Do you have that emergency fund that Chantal was mentioning to you about? Or maybe it's high time to ask yourself, what is your net worth today? Is it positive or is it negative? So do you have the things that you need in life, or how about the things that you want? These are the things that Sean was trying to mention us on that perspective. Or what percent of your debt would you consider high interest, such as the credit cards? Is it more than 50%? Because he was talking about how to manage debt using the avalanche method. You're talking about the snowball method, right? Or are you actively saving for retirement? What I love about what he said is that, hey, I put 10% for my tithings. I put 10% to give 10% to myself because I'm self-employed, and I put aside another 10% for my retirement. So these are the things that you might be wanting to ask yourself. Even insurance, he actually tackled it. Do you have enough life insurance coverage just in case something happens to you? Is there a money that be left behind for your family? So again, mga kaibigan, those are the things that we talked about today, and the last three we'll be tackling it next week. So again, you're listening to In My Toolbox. I am again Enrico Pobre. Hanggang sa susunod, mga kaibigan. Maraming salamat.